The lifelong effect of not being loved as a child, Helen? Matthews was 63 years old when she finally understood why she had spent her entire life feeling like she was never quite enough. She was sitting in her therapist's office on a Tuesday afternoon when the realization hit her with such force that she had to pause and catch her breath. "You were not loved as a child," Dr. Sarah Chen said gently. "Not in the way children need to be loved." Len wanted to protest. Her parents had not been monsters. They had provided food and shelter and clothing. They had sent her to school. They had done their duty, but they had never held her when she cried, never told her they were proud of her, never asked about her dreams or fears or the things that made her heart sing. They had raised her the way you might raise a plant, with the basics needed for survival, but without the warmth needed for thriving. "I always thought I was being dramatic," Helen said quietly. "Other people had it so much." "Worse pain is not a competition," Dr. Chen replied. "In the absence of love leaves scars. Just as real as any other wound." Helen had spent 63 years trying to fill the emptiness left by that absence. She had married young to a man who was kind, but emotionally distant. She had poured herself into her children, trying to give them what she had never received. She had volunteered and worked and kept herself constantly busy, because sitting still meant feeling, and feeling meant confronting the truth she had been running from her whole life, that she had never learned how to believe she was worthy of love, because she had never been shown children who were not loved. Learned certain things, they learned to be hypervigilant, always scanning for signs of approval or disapproval. They learned to be people pleasers, twisting themselves into whatever shape might earn affection. They learned to minimize their own needs, because needing things had always felt dangerous. Helen had mastered all of these survival skills. She could read a room instantly, could tell what people wanted from her before they knew themselves, could disappear her own desires so completely that sometimes she forgot she had any. Her daughter Rachel had noticed this. "Mom, you never say what you want," she had said recently. "We always have to guess." Helen had laughed it off, but the comment had stayed with her because it was true. At 63, she still did not know how to ask for what she needed, still felt guilty for having needs at all. In therapy, Helen began to trace the patterns, how her childhood had shaped every relationship she had ever had. Her marriage to Tom had been comfortable, but never deeply intimate, because intimacy required vulnerability. And Helen had learned early that vulnerability was dangerous. Her friendships were warm, but surface level, because letting people truly see her felt terrifying. Her relationship with her own children was loving, but complicated, because she had tried so hard to give them what she never had, that she sometimes smothered them with the affection she had been starved for. What would it look like, Dr. Chen asked, to learn to love yourself now? Helen did not know. She had spent 63 years believing she was fundamentally unlovable. That belief was not based on anything she had done, but on what had been done to her, or rather, what had not been done. The absence of affection, the silence where words of love should have been, the coldness where warmth should have lived. One afternoon, Helen was sorting through old photographs. She found a picture of herself at age 7A. Small girl with serious eyes, standing stiffly beside her parents who were not touching her. Helen looked at that little girl and felt her heart break, because she could see it now. The loneliness, the hunger for connection. The way she was already learning to make herself small. "I am so sorry," Helen whispered to the photograph. I'm so sorry no one told you that you were precious." She began to cry. Not delicate tears, but deep sobs that came from a place she had kept locked for decades. She cried for the child she had been, for all the hugs she'd never received, for all the words of encouragement never spoken for, all the times she had needed comfort and received only indifference. Helen's husband, Tom, found her on the floor, surrounded by photographs. He sat down beside her without a word and pulled her into his arms. Tom was not a demonstrative man, never had been, but in that moment he held her while she cried, and when she finally stopped, he said something he had never said before. "I am sorry. I did not see how much you needed to be held." Helen looked at him with surprise. "What do you mean? I have been thinking about what you said in therapy," Tom admitted, "about how you were never shown affection, and I realized I have been the same way." "You are a good husband," Helen said. "I am a decent husband," Tom corrected, "but I have not been a loving one, not in the way you needed." They sat together in the fading afternoon light. Two people in their 60s realizing they still had time to change, to learn, to grow. Tom started small, holding Helen's hand when they walked, telling her she looked nice, asking her opinion, and actually listening to the answer. These were small gestures, but to Helen, they were revolutionary. She was learning that love could be gentle, that she did not have to earn it, that she could receive it without immediately trying to return it tenfold. Helen also began to change her relationship with her children. Rachel and her brother Michael had grown up with a mother who was devoted but anxious, who gave everything, but could not receive, who loved them fiercely but could not accept their love in return. "I need to tell you something," Helen said when they came for Sunday dinner. Her children exchanged worried glances. "I grew up without affection," she began, "and I did not realize until recently how much that affected the way I raised you." She told them about her childhood, not to excuse anything but to explain. "I tried so hard to give you what I never had," she said, "but I also taught you some unhealthy patterns." "Like what?" Michael asked gently. "Like the idea that love has to be earned," Helen said. "Like the belief that needing things is weakness." Rachel reached across the table and took her mother's hand. "We turned out okay, Mom." "You did, Helen." "Agreed, but you also learned to take care of me emotionally in ways children should not have to." It was true, Rachel had been the family peacekeeper. Michael had been the one who tried to make his mother smile. They had both learned young that their job was to fill the emptiness in Helen, not because she asked them to, because they could sense it. "I am working on this in therapy," Helen said, "and I wanted you to know so you can work on it too if you need to." After they left, Tom said that was brave. "It was necessary," Helen replied. "I do not want them to carry what I have carried." The weeks turned into months. Helen continued therapy. She learned about attachment styles and childhood trauma, and the way early experiences shape the architecture of our hearts. She learned that her constant anxiety was her body still looking for danger. That her difficulty accepting compliments was rooted in never learning she had value. That her tendency to overgive was an attempt to finally earn the love she had been denied. She learned that all of this could be healed. Not erased, but healed. She started practicing self-compassion. Looking at herself the way she would look at that 7-year-old in the photograph, with tenderness, with understanding, with love. She started noticing when she dismissed her own needs. And gently redirecting herself. "What do I actually want?" she would ask. Sometimes the answer was small cup of tea, a moment of quiet. Sometimes it was bigger. Time with friends, a class she wanted to take, permission to rest. She started saying these things out loud to Tom, to her children, to herself. One evening, Helen was reading in her favorite chair when Tom brought her tea without being asked. "Thank you," she said. "You are welcome," he replied. Then he did something unusual. He kissed the top of her head. Helen felt tears spring to her eyes. "Are you okay, Tom?" asked. "Yes," she said. "I am just not used to this." "You should get used to it," Tom said, "because I plan to keep doing it." Helen realized something profound in that moment. It was not too late. At 63, with most of her life behind her, it was still not too late to learn how to be loved, not too late to heal, not too late to become the person she might have been if she had been cherished as a child. Rachel called one afternoon. "Mom, I started therapy." Helen felt her heart clench. "Is everything okay?" "It will be," Rachel said. "I realized after our conversation that I have some of the same patterns you do." "I am sorry," Helen said automatically. "Do not be sorry." Rachel interrupted. "Be proud that you broke the silence, that you showed me it was okay to ask for help." Helen had never thought of it that way, that her healing could give permission for others to heal. Michael called a few weeks later with similar news. Both of her children were working through the ways her unloved childhood had rippled into their lives. It was painful to know, but also hopeful. Because the pattern was finally breaking. One Saturday, Helen went to visit her mother in the nursing home. Her mother was 89 now, and frail. They sat together in the garden. Helen had spent 63 years hoping her mother would suddenly become warm. An affectionate would apologize for the coldness. Would explain why she had been so unable to show love, but her mother was who she was. "I am working on some things in therapy," Helen said. Her mother nodded vaguely. "I am learning about how my childhood affected me, Her mother's face tightened slightly. "We did the best we could, asterisk, I know," Helen said, "but your best was not enough." Mom and I needed to say that out loud. Her mother did not respond. Helen had not expected her to asterisk, but she had needed to speak the truth for herself, not for her mother's acknowledgement, asterisk, but for her own liberation. As Helen drove home, she felt lighter. She realized she had been waiting her whole life for her mother to fix what had been broken, asterisk, but her mother could not fix it, only Helen could, and she was finally doing the work, asterisk. Helen was 63 years old, asterisk. She had spent most of her life carrying the weight of not being loved as a child, asterisk. That weight had shaped everything: her marriage, her parenting, her friendships, her sense of self, asterisk. But she was learning something essential, asterisk, that the unloved child she had been did not have to determine the woman she became, asterisk. That healing was possible at any age, asterisk. That she could learn to love herself, even if no one had taught her how. This is a story about legacy, about the way pain travels through generations, asterisk, but also about the way healing can too. Helen had not been loved as a child, but she was learning to love herself as an adult, asterisk. When in doing so, she was teaching her children and her husband and everyone who knew her that it was never too late, asterisk. Never too late to heal, never too late to change, never too late to finally give yourself the love you always deserved, asterisk. Helen looked at herself in the mirror one morning and did something she had never done before. She smiled at her reflection with genuine warmth. "You are enough," she told herself. "You have always been enough." And for the first time in 63 years, she believed it.